More cities and states taking drastic measures as the U.S. hits another daily case record of coronavirus. Spotify inks another exclusive podcast deal, this time with Michelle Obama. And love, hate, ate at the end of a very long week. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Friday, July 17th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo. Good morning.
Happy Friday, Jill. This has been a just long week.
It has, but at least it's Friday. Heat is coming, though. Yesterday was gorgeous in the New York area, but I think this weekend's supposed to be super hot.
Oh, great.
Womp womp. All right, let's get to some news. The U.S. once again shattering its own record of new coronavirus cases. 77,000 cases, new cases, Carlo, on Thursday alone. 1,000 new deaths. 14,000 of these new cases are in Florida. In Miami Beach, the party scene on the iconic Ocean Drive continues every night. There's few masks, no social distancing. Now worried that Manhattan nightlife is getting out of control. The Governor Cuomo, told bars in New York City that they can no longer serve alcohol unless it is accompanied by food, and that all of those walk-up bar service that had been huge for restaurants, that's going to actually be shut down. Meanwhile, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is suing the mayor of Atlanta for defying his order and ordering everyone to wear masks. So he is basically saying she can't force everyone to wear masks in public.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. This guy Kemp is on my list of governors who need to be shown the door, along with his neighbor DeSantis in Florida. I mean, suing over a mask mandate when cases in your state are going up is like, I mean, I know that there's been some crazy stuff this year, but this one is up there, I got to say. I mean, this guy Kemp has presidential ambitions, so he's pretty much doing this to suck up to Trump, I think, because President Trump hates the Atlanta mayor. So I think that's pretty much what's behind this. And he should be ashamed of himself, frankly. He should be absolutely ashamed of himself. There is no shame. Remember shame? We don't have it anymore, so he won't be. And he's also not going to be president because the guy he's a dud. He has no charisma. He's like, I don't know what he's thinking. But anyway, not to mention the fact that he's completely failed in his coronavirus response. But back to the thing on
coming
bars.
in hot this morning, Carlo.
I'm so done with these guys, man. I'm like, I'll get in trouble probably, but this is so out of control at this point. The lack of competent leadership in this country at every level. On the bar thing.
Well, this is why you need a federal mask mandate, by the way.
For sure. Right,
that way
you
don't have to have the squabbling between cities and states and local businesses.
Of course, yeah, it would make it all. It would end all of this. There'd be all sorts of other problems, but you're right. On the thing that you mentioned about bars, it's actually, it's an important story because I understand that Cuomo doesn't want New York City to turn into Miami, right? And these pictures out of Miami Beach are crazy, and other places too. The pictures in Manhattan are kind of crazy. And you mentioned it, right? Walk-up bar service has been a lifeline for restaurants and bars. I know in New York, I know in my neighborhood of Brooklyn, a lot of these places. I mean, I've talked to bartenders and at the bars in my neighborhood, and they say the only reason that they're even barely able to survive is because they have this system down, right, where they're serving cocktails to go. It's I guess I understand. I'm of two thoughts here because it upsets me because I worry about these small businesses so much, especially the hospitality businesses. But I do understand that we got to be careful, right? And we can't have these scenes of just like mass hysteria on the streets with everybody drinking and partying in close quarters. So I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, life is all about unintentional consequences, right? And if if the governor shuts this down, which I've seen the pictures, I cannot speak from any firsthand experience because I don't even leave
Those
this
days
house
are over.
anymore. Yeah, exactly. Like it sounds fun, but it's not part of my repertoire at this point. But anyway, again, with these unintentional consequences. So just say you had a group of young people, right, like in their 20s who were going out and they said, let's go outside. We'll meet outside. We'll go to this restaurant. We'll get some margaritas or whatever, and then we'll sit, on a stoop and we'll have drinks and we'll talk,
Right.
whatever. Okay, there's not that much outdoor space in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and I wonder if by shutting that down, are you going to create a situation where these younger people who were out are going to say, just come over and we'll hang in my apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
not going to
We'll get
just
beers
keep
from the
sitting
bodega.
home.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not just going to keep sitting home doing nothing. In the middle of summer, it's been months of this already. So are you now kind of forcing people to hang out inside, which is exactly in air conditioning, which is exactly what you're not supposed to do. So it's like a lesser of two evils. I
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to play out.
I will have to see.
Okay, there's another really big story I want to draw attention to. In Florida, nearly 1 in 3 children who have been tested for coronavirus have tested positive. Health officials are now worried that even kids who have mild or asymptomatic cases may be at risk of long-term damage. X-rays are showing lung damage in some children who don't even get sick, and experts say it's just not known whether that damage will become a chronic condition. This is frightening because there was this kind of, I think the conventional wisdom here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carla, was like, get, if you had coronavirus and you're fine and you survived and your family had it, that's like the golden ticket. You don't get it again,
Right.
it's behind you. But if A, we're learning that perhaps you can get it again, and B, there might be these chronic conditions or these long-term conditions that stem from it. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Well, especially in kids, obviously, right? Because their lungs are still growing and developing. So I think that's the scary thing here. But I don't really know what to make of these stories. It's like there's one of the hardest things about covering this and just about consuming media on this story has been there's so many unknowns, and I mean that's nobody's fault, right? This is a new virus. It's a novel coronavirus, right? So we're learning all of this stuff in real time, and uh, I don't know. I don't know what else to say, right? It's worrisome. It's scary, and I understand when people hear these stories, they get scared, and then they don't hear about them again, and they're like, "Whatever happened to that?" Um, yeah, I wish I had I wish I had some better analysis for you.
No, I mean, this is every parent that I know is struggling with this right now. A friend of mine saw this news and was like, "Should I pull my daughter out of camp?" She just got social again with her friends. I don't even know
Right.
what do you do? We just had this, the American Academy of Pediatrics just said they've got to be in school. That the physical effects are not as bad as we thought. So I don't. To your point, this is a new virus, and the info keeps coming every day, and a lot of it seems to be contradictory, and that's kind of the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. That's what I meant to
Um,
say. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the US, the UK, and Canada say they have good evidence that Russian hackers are trying to steal COVID-19 vaccine research. The hacking group known as Cozy Bear, which intelligence agents think is closely associated with the Kremlin, is said to be using spear phishing and malware attacks to break into the systems of organizations working on various vaccine candidates.
I mean, of course they are. Like this is what the Russians do. I don't. I wasn't. The story came out yesterday, and everyone was making a big like all this hay over it, and I was kind of like, yeah, like is that surprising to anybody? Like it's kind of all the Russians know how to do anymore. But here's a little thought experiment. One might argue that vaccine research should probably be open sourced. I understand that it's not because this is going to be a huge moneymaker for whoever gets there first, right? Whatever biotech or pharmaceutical company comes up with a vaccine, they're going to make a lot of money. So I understand why they want to keep the research under lock and key. But in a perfect utopian world, which we do not live, it should sort of be this global collaborative effort, and you wouldn't have to worry about hackers because anyone who wanted access to it, to try and work on a vaccine would be able to get to it. So, we don't live in that world, but I don't
Carlo,
know.
I love that take.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No, I do. I actually I didn't think that that's where you were going, and I think you're actually spot on, especially given that at least here in the U.S., what are we pumping billions of dollars, into these companies to develop a vaccine? So
Right.
perhaps they should be sharing information with one another. Of course, not hacking into each other's systems,
Right.
sharing what's usable and you know, but anyway, when you were saying it, I was thinking about China, right? Imagine if China had actually been forthcoming about what was happening in January or
Right.
February.
Yeah, we'd be
I
in a
don't
way
think
different place.
we would not, the world would not be in this place right now.
Sure, absolutely, no question.
The battle over the next phase of economic stimulus is about to begin in earnest next week here in the U.S. The Senate's expected to release its version of a bill, which the House will likely reject, at which point both chambers will begin negotiating. So, at stake, is there any more help coming for small businesses or the millions of Americans who were laid off or furloughed over the last 4 months?
This is going to be the big story for the next couple of weeks, so just get prepared. The $600 enhanced unemployment benefit that something like 20 million Americans are currently receiving every week, that's running out in the next 2 weeks at the end of this month, and this is probably the single best thing our government has done for the economy, maybe in my lifetime. I honestly can't think of something better. I mean, it has been. I personally know people who are, able to survive because of the $600 a week, who have otherwise lost their jobs and don't know when or if they're ever going back to work. And it goes away in 10 days. So I think we got to figure it out. I think actually, I'm sort of hopeful on this. I think that the Senate will pass an extension at the very last minute after it comes down to the wire and we do the whole posturing thing and everybody's yelling and all that. I just think because they can't afford, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans can't afford not to. If you can't take this, you cannot force 20 million people who are already out of work to have no help in an election year. It's just a bad idea,
Well,
right?
they
Like that's
have
going to.
help, Carlo. It's just they wouldn't have that extra, like they'd still get unemployment benefits.
Sure,
They
yeah,
just
that's a
wouldn't
good
get
point.
that extra $600. I happen to come out. I happen to see both sides of this. There's actually a lot of small business organizations, one of whom which I interviewed on Cheddar, which are really against that $600 because a lot of people are making more money now than they were before. And it's becoming very difficult for businesses to reopen because a lot of people don't want to go back to work because they're
See,
making more money
I
now
have a
than they were.
I understand. I hear that argument and I just don't buy it. I mean, I think that the idea that right now in the United States of America in July 2020 that people are too well off is just such BS to me. Like I mean I know, like, my best friend is currently getting this money. He obviously, this is very anecdotal, right? But he would love to go back to work, even though he's actually probably making more than he was by a couple bucks off of this. So I just think I hear the argument, I just don't buy it. Like, even if that's
I
the
was
case, so
I,
what? Like, okay. Right?
Well, the thing is, Carlo, and look, I think everybody's different, and it depends on what you were doing. And look, I'm only going on anecdotal stories too.
Sure, we all are.
And I just and my interviews and people I've been talking to, but I do like I know somebody who's trying to get her business back up and running, and her employees won't come back, and she is going to have to shut down. And so I think
Yeah,
this, I just think I think that there's more to this than just, you know, I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble. I think this isn't so black and white.
no, you're right. Nothing is ever black and white. I just as a general rule of thumb, I just think that I just don't think that people. I don't think that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Jill. I mean, I don't know anybody in that situation where they can't get their people back to work because of the unemployment enhanced unemployment benefits. So, I mean,
Right. No,
I
I
get
was like,
I get
I
that side of
was
the argument.
there was an interview with this woman who owns a bakery in Brooklyn, and she was trying, it was on one of the local stations here. She wants to open back up. She was so excited. None of her workers will come back. She's just now, in addition to the process of complying with social distancing and everything else, she has to hire all new staff. Um,
Yeah, I just think that if this goes away, it's regardless of like the ethics or morality or whatever, it's just going to be a catastrophic economic event, and I think that I don't think I don't think the Republicans in the Senate or in the White House can afford to let that happen right now.
okay, mortgage rates below 3% for the first time ever. The average rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage fell to 2.98% last week. The 15-year fixed fell to 2.48%. These are the lowest rates since Freddie Mac started surveying the market 50 years ago.
I know it's a little weird to be doing this because we don't usually like track mortgage rates on this podcast, but this is they've never been below 3%, as you just said. This is it's a big deal what's happening in the real estate market. Because it's all over the place, and I'm personally fascinated by it. Record low rates are creating this kind of frenzy in some aspects of the market, from what I can tell from people who have some stable income. They're not worried about their job. They want to take advantage of these rates. But at the same time, like we just talked about, there's all of these people who are unemployed, and there's even more people who are worried about their just their job security, right? And you don't buy a house if you're worried you're going to get laid off. So I'm just sort of actually, my wife and I have been toying with the idea of buying our first apartment, mostly because of this, because the rates are so low. But I don't know if it's the right idea or not. And I'm actually curious if anyone else is in the same position, because it's like, yeah, we might be able to get a good deal. But I mean, I don't, our jobs seem safe right now, but who the heck knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months, right?
That's the challenge. I mean, the other question too, though, I mean, for you, I think you could probably get an amazing deal in Brooklyn or Manhattan or somewhere in New York City. I mean, you would basically be kind of bucking the trend.
Right.
I
That's
interviewed
the
Barbara Corcoran the other day on Cheddar, and
Oh, love
I was
Babs.
asking. I mean, she's just, I could have talked to her. I had 100 more questions, but I asked her when, like, if this exodus out of the city, if she thinks that it's going to be a really long-term thing, or if it's just a fleeting moment. And she says, people have been counting out New York City for
Sure.
a very long time, for decades, and it's always going to come back. She thought it would be about a 2-year. This is going to be kind of like a 2-year thing. And then you'll see a lot of people wanting to go back to the city. So I don't know if you could I think you could probably get a ton of good deals right now, Carlo.
Well, from everything I've seen, there certainly are some deals. But yeah, from your lips, Babs. I mean, who knows? To your point yesterday, Jill.
I never
Like
heard her called Babs. I mean, I know
I
her
call her
name's
Babs
Barbara,
because
but
I Barbara Quirk and I actually go way back, if you can believe it.
what? No, why? How?
I no, I shouldn't. We don't go way back, but I met her, and I had a very funny encounter with her like 15 years ago when I was just starting my job. I'll save that for another podcast because it's actually a very funny story. But she's cool. She's
Tell us.
no
Can
no
you
no.
do it in 30 seconds?
No, let's just say that she took an interest in me and my work when I was a young employee at another business network. But I don't mean that. That sounds almost like nefarious. It's not at all. She was very sweet to me and very nice, and we got on very well. Um,
Okay. Barbara Corcoran, if you're listening, you can
she's
rekindle with
no,
Carlo.
she, she's very cool.
Okay, on other news, on another note here, Kanye West's presidential ambitions appear to be serious. The rapper has qualified for the general election ballot in Oklahoma and is reportedly taking steps to get on the ballot in Florida and also in other states as a third-party candidate. According to filings with the FEC, a Kanye 2020 group has been submitting paperwork for the last 2 days. So this is happening.
I mean, why must we do this right now is my question. But I do want to. The reason why I wanted to mention the story today is because it's all it's all over the news, and like it's just a classic story that the media gloms onto, but they shouldn't, because if you look at the FEC database, the Federal Election Committee database, it shows how many people have filed these statements that show an intent to run, and right now it's 1,500. Somebody by the name of Big Chungus has filed to run for president. Somebody by the name of Your Mom, seriously, has filed to run for president. And I say that because what it means is that when you hear about this, like, oh, Kanye's running for president, you shouldn't take it seriously. He only got on the ballot in Oklahoma because he paid his way on. You can pay like some fee to get on the ballot there, but most states you can't. Most states you need some amount of signatures, and it doesn't even matter because the filing deadline has already passed in a lot of states. So, we'll continue to keep you updated. But Kanye West is not going to be president, at least in November.
By the way, Carlo, I know you've been leading the charge to get Michelle Obama to run for vice president on Joe Biden's ticket. I don't think that's going to happen. If we
Me
needed
neither.
any other reason, she has an exclusive podcast deal with Spotify The Michelle Obama podcast debuts on July 29th. Remember, the Obamas also have a multi-year deal with Netflix to produce content. So it sounds like she's having way too much fun in the private sector, Carlo.
Yeah, and making way more money. I mean, I wouldn't blame her. Why would you want to run? Why would you want to run for office when you can just print checks from Spotify and Netflix, right? Still, I think her on the ticket seals the deal for Biden. I continue to believe that.
I agree with you there. By the way, though, before we get to Love Hate 8, we do have a little housekeeping. Carlo is off next week on a much deserved vacation. So Baker Machado is going to be filling in. But because Baker and I are both on Cheddar's morning show, it is going to be a little crazy and a tight deadline. So just bear with us. If we miss a day, don't fret. We will be back the next day.
Yeah, Baker will be great.
We'll miss you, Carlo.
I will miss you guys. I'm not even going anywhere. So if you need me, just text. Throw up the podcast signal, and I'll be back.
Wait, so how is this your last week out east?
And yeah. So my wife and I got the week off at the same time. So we're just gonna sort of hang and chill. This summer has just been really mentally a lot, right? But also on the housekeeping note, just a couple reminders, guys. You can watch these on YouTube, cheddar.com or youtube.com/cheddar live. We're doing these on video now. If you haven't seen, check those out. Put a review on Apple if you're watching this or listening on Apple. Those reviews on Apple's podcast app mean a lot because it's how Apple actually ranks their podcast. So throw us a review.
Even bad reviews, by the way. It's like it's just about the amount of reviews.
Yes.
Right?
Well, we don't need another one-star review calling. Yes, thank you. I don't need another one of those one-star reviews calling me a hypocrite. But if you feel the need to do that, go ahead. And also, if you haven't heard an ad yet, you may begin again to start hearing ads at the beginning of the podcast. Bear with it. They're good. They're high quality ads coming from Google. They help us continue to do this podcast. So that's all I wanted to mention there.
I actually heard an ad the other day for the first time.
I haven't yet.
I'm excited. All right, let's do a little Love Hate 8. Carlo,
you're
good,
getting paid, right? Jill. We getting paid.
All right, a little Love Hate 8. Carlo, kick it off.
Okay. Well, one thing we love, and this is the thing that I miss most about the before times, is just a solo matinee of a movie that you've been looking forward to. Maybe something that like you can't get your wife to go see, and you just want to go see it. Maybe you have a day off in the middle of the week. You go, you get the Sour Patch Kids at the drugstore across the street, and you just sit in the back of the theater, enjoy the movie by yourself in the middle of the day. That's one of my favorite pleasures in life.
Definitely something I think that we're missing now.
Yeah.
One thing that we hate, forgetting to mute the Zoom call and having all of your coworkers hear you yell at your kids, or even worse, forgetting to turn the video off and realizing your coworkers could see you in bed without a bra watching TV. That never happened to me, I promise. But
my wife says
that potentially could happen.
My wife says that bras are. She has this theory that the bra industry is going to collapse after this because nobody's wearing them anymore. Which I can't opine on. But and finally, one thing that we ate: fresh fish off the grill. One of summer's great pleasures. We've just been grilling up fish every night, and I feel great. Not mentally. I do not feel good mentally, but but physically, it's just some fresh tomatoes. And some flounder or bass or tuna. It's great, and I highly recommend.
All right, everybody. That's what you need to know for Friday, July 17th.
Okay, good luck next week, Jill and Baker, and see you guys the week after.
Carlo, enjoy your vacation.
I will.
Try to listen like once during the week and let us know what you think. But other than that,
I'll
take the week off.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.